Hey everybody, what's up? It's Leanne Del Carpio here. So have you ever had recently a plan that was moving along and you thought that either personally or professionally everything was right about to achieve success, and then bam, something kind of flies in at the last minute and disrupts not only the achievement of the goal but kind of the bedrock foundation upon which you built all of your progress forward? Okay, if anyone can relate to that, I had that happen recently where a foundational kind of piece of a project had to be re-examined, and it felt highly disruptive and unnerving at the beginning because we were really making some great progress and really at a place of achieving some great momentum, and it felt like when the change hit that everything kind of crumbled to pieces. So I don't know if anyone can relate to this professionally with a project or personally. I actually had something personally happen with a family member with a health situation that kind of knocked me off kilter as well. And, you know, it really called to mind for me a key principle that I lean on a lot during disruptive change, and that is that while adversity, what looks like and seems like and legitimately can be adversity or shock or disruption or chaos, frankly, at the beginning, can actually be a source of incredible transformation. We can't always see it like that at the beginning. But I have a phrase that I always say, and I use this in my Recalibrate for Impact accelerator for leaders, and that is that every disruption is an invitation into transformation if we let it. The if we let it portion is the piece that's so critical to practice, because I don't know about you, but when the change or the challenge or the disruption hits me, I get very constricted, right? And this is natural, normal, human, and logical when we think about relying on our senses, right? Our senses, our sight, sound, smell, etc., when something appears as a threat to us, actually narrows our field of vision. Neuroscientists will talk about if we can widen our vision, that's called optic flow. But if we narrow it under stress, it's because our sight, our sound, our smell is pinpointing what that threat could be, potentially, right? It was very helpful, again, when we lived in caves and there was the saber-toothed tiger externally. Now, it's like, whoa, where did that disruption come from that attacked the bedrock of my project, right? And I'm kind of narrowing my focus on what I think the one source of that stress is. Now, it may or may not be, but when I narrow my focus and adrenaline is pumping and cortisol as well, I'm kind of bathing in these hormones of stress, and my heart rate is increasing, right? My sense of time, I'm very time conscious. There's no time. I don't have time to address this, right? I'm not sure how I'm going to have the resources, and thoughts that are limiting and constraining, feelings of overwhelm, maybe even like, oh my God, what? Feelings of almost helplessness, powerlessness in the moment. Now, it might be that happens to all of us, that initial feeling, but how quickly we can kind of recalibrate our senses of being, our state, our physiology, our thoughts and feelings, and therefore our actions, all of that together, is really the key to expansion and growth. And it's really countercultural to what the predominant mode of conversation is around stress today. A lot of us are very familiar with the detrimental impacts of stress. And I'm not denying that stress can have detrimental impacts, and every doctor that you talk to will tell you that so many disease states are linked to relentless stress that people are not able to manage effectively, and it translates into degradation of our physiology and ultimately leads to disease. So there's certainly a lot of research around what we can do, how it's linked to disease states and how we can actually take charge of our energy. But what I love to really think about is not only the detrimental impacts of stress, but how stress, a certain amount of stress, when it's kind of challenging us, not moving too much over into threat stress, is how it can actually help us grow. And there's a body of research that counteracts the focus on post-traumatic stress disorder, which is something real and something that I have had many colleagues and personal friends and acquaintances grapple with due to earlier traumatic incidents that they've experienced, whether it be first responders or certainly the entire pandemic, those who were serving on the front lines, earlier childhood experiences, people who have experienced warfare. I mean, there's so many reasons that we can experience trauma in our lives, and it can lead to a post-traumatic stress disorder kind of response, and that's certainly something to get some assistance with. But there's also a body of work that comes out of Harvard and other researchers from other institutions that's called post-traumatic growth. And Tedeschi and others are really leading some great work here in looking at how a minority of people, not a majority, but a minority of people, when faced with trauma, adversity, challenge, and chaos, actually grew from their experience, from their stress. They did not shrink, they actually expanded. They expanded into a greater sense of personal belief, greater clarity on their values, deeper relationships with others, possibly even greater spirituality, a number of different factors. It's a great body of work to look into if you're interested in that. But the common principle that you can take away today is that disruption is actually an invitation into transformation if we let it. And stress can actually prompt us, be the exact gift to grow if we let it. But here's the thing. What's necessary to allow that growth is to become a master of the present moment, in my mind anyway. How might we, the moment that trauma, that stress, that adversity hits us, begin to be able to train our awareness, our attention, such that our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, doesn't run away with the stress response, but we take charge of it in the moment. And that requires a couple of things. Number one, it requires really taking charge of our energy in terms of our physiology, noticing if we are constraining or shifting in our physiology, or in other words, number one, noticing if your back is tightening up, or if your shoulders are tightening up, or you feel kind of a pit in your stomach. Where are you noticing it physiologically? Number two, what are the thoughts immediately that come to mind and the feelings that correlate with that? So when the disruption hit with my project, I immediately felt it, frankly, on my shoulders, like the weight of the world. I kind of sunk in my chair like, oh God, no, the bedrock of this project is completely shattered. What the heck? How are we going to move this forward? And I then started to feel it kind of like in my lower back, like, oh, the weight of the world. My thoughts were, no, I have to start over. And my feelings were, I can't do it. I just can't. I can't handle this. I'm not capable. And then the third thing to kind of pay attention to is how my perception changed, right? What was the shift? So originally I was feeling good momentum with the project forward. My thoughts were, we're making progress. And then my thoughts shifted to, because I was encountering small little roadblocks prior to that, but my thoughts were, I can handle the roadblocks. Then it shifted to, I can't handle this one. This shatters everything. So it's a bit dramatic, right? And on face value, it felt like it shattered everything, and it did challenge some basic assumptions. But when I sat in the present moment and actually noticed what was going on with my physiology, my thoughts, my feelings, and then noticed the shift, I knew enough to take charge of my energy in the moment to say there exists in the quantum field, there has got to be another potentiality, another possibility where this problem is not a problem, that this disruption is actually a gift, and it's a gift because I discovered it now before I went further. Calming our physiology then, using breath and using awareness technique to notice what our thoughts and feelings are, we can shift our energy and consider what else might this disruption mean now. I forced myself then to list 20 other possibilities that could come out of this disruption that I would not have foreseen. And as a result of that, the shift that was helpful to actually anchor into my body later was thank you for this disruption now. The universe just gave me a gift, because if I had built this to scale and then been disrupted by this, this would have been much bigger of a disaster. It's thankfully a gift because it is exposing the exact gaps that need to be addressed now before we scale this thing broader. Now, did I get there immediately within like 10 minutes? No, sadly. I had to actually take charge of my energy, and it took about 48 hours, like 2 days, to actually shift and get to that realization. I went into a little bit of panic and a little victimization up front. And you know what? We're human. So it's catch yourself in that habit, see what else it could mean, and then shift it as quickly as possible. I'm hoping with my own practice I'll be able to advance that timing next time, so that it's not the 48 hours, it's 36 hours or 24 hours, right? You can sort of work your way down. But I'll tell you, that practice of becoming the master of your present moment, noticing the physiology, the thoughts and the feelings, and then shifting it to grow from stress and pressure, chaos and disorder, is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Because if we cannot reset and recalibrate our energy in this world of constant, ongoing disruption and change, then essentially we become victims of our external environment. And I don't know about you, I'm not here for that. I'm here to create some greater sense of possibilities and leave a greater impact. And so I got to get better at taking charge of my energy. If you would like to take charge of your energy as well, we've got some great things cooking up in the fall where I'll be opening up a community where we're going to be sharing more tips and resources and videos and interviews about exactly that, how to reset, recalibrate, reimagine, rethink, and I hope that you'll join me in that community. In the meantime, though, I'll catch you hopefully on LinkedIn or Instagram, and hopefully you can join in the conversation there and take some additional tips along the way. We'll see you there.